closed, but in vain. I tried to forget his pink face, which I succeeded in doing, and slept for about 6 hours, worn out as I was. But no sooner was I awake than he began to get on my nerves again. He was already eating his breakfast. I pretended to be still asleep. As I could see out of my right eye, we were somewhere over the Mississippi, flying at a great height and absolutely smoothly, our propellers flashing in the morning sun. Usual window panes, you see them and at the same time look through them. The wings also glistening, rigid in empty space, no swaying now. We were poised motionless in a cloudless sky, a flight like hundreds of others, the engines running smoothly. "Good morning," he said. I returned his greeting. "Did you sleep well?" he inquired. We could make out the tributaries of the Mississippi, though only through mist, like trickles of molten brass or bronze. It was still early in the morning. I knew this part of the run. I shut my eyes with the intention of going to sleep again. He was reading a paperback. It was no use shutting my eyes. I was awake and there was nothing I could do about it. I kept thinking about my neighbor. I could see him, so to speak, with my eyes shut. I ordered breakfast. This was his first visit to the States, as I'd supposed, but his opinion of the country was already cut and dried. On the whole, he found the Americans lacking in culture, but there were certain things of which he could not help approving, for instance, the friendly attitude of most Americans towards Germany. I didn't contradict. No German wanted rearmament, but the Russians were forcing it on America. It was tragic. As a Switzer, he called it, I couldn't judge these things because I'd never been in the Caucasus. He had been in the Caucasus. He knew Ivan, and you could only teach him with weapons. He knew Ivan. He repeated this several times. You could only teach him with weapons, he said. Nothing else made any impression on Ivan. I peeled my apple. To distinguish between the master races and inferior races, as Hitler did, was nonsense, of course, but Asiatics were always Asiatics. I ate my apple. I took my electric shaver out of my briefcase in order to shave, or rather to be alone for a quarter of an hour. I don't like Germans, although my friend Joachim was also a German. In the washroom, I wondered whether I should move to another seat. I just didn't feel like getting better acquainted with this gentleman, and it would be at least another 4 hours before we reached Mexico City, where my neighbor had to change planes. I had made up my mind to sit somewhere else. There was a number of places free. When I came back into the cabin, shaved, so that I felt freer, more confident, I can't bear being unshaven. He had just taken the liberty of picking up my papers from the floor in case somebody trod on them. He handed them to me, politeness personified. I thanked him as I stowed the papers away in my briefcase, rather too cordially it seems, since he immediately took advantage of my thanks to ask more questions. Did I work for UNESCO? I felt my stomach, as I often did recently. There was no real pain. I was simply aware of having a stomach, a stupid feeling. Perhaps that was why I was so disagreeable. I sat down in my old seat and, in order not to be disagreeable, told him I was concerned in technical aid to underdeveloped countries. I can talk about this while thinking of something entirely different. I don't know what I was thinking about. He seemed to be impressed by UNESCO, as he was by anything international. He stopped treating me as a Switzer and listened as though I were an authority, with positive reverence, interested to the point of subservience, which didn't prevent him from getting on my nerves. I was glad when we landed. Just as we left the plane and parted in front of the customs shed, I realized what it was that had struck me earlier. His face, though plump and pink as Joachim's never was, nonetheless reminded me of Joachim. Then I forgot it. That was in Houston, Texas. After the customs, after the usual palaver about my camera, which has been halfway round the world with me, I went into the bar for a drink, but noticed that my Dusseldorfer was already sitting in the bar and actually kept a